From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South, and I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Venezuela has broken off diplomatic and political relations with the United States after President Donald Trump recognized the illegal swearing-in of what the opposition calls an interim president. President Nicolás Maduro gave 72 hours for all U.S. diplomatic personnel to leave the country. He accused the U.S. government of trying to divide the Venezuelan people and promote a coup d'etat.
I have decided to break off diplomatic and political relations with the imperialist government of the United States. Out of Venezuela. They can all leave. Enough intervention. We have dignity here. Here there is a people disposed to defend their country. I signed the diplomatic note giving 72 hours for all the diplomatic staff of the United States in Venezuela to leave. I am signing it in the name of the people of Venezuela.
Maduro made the announcement to thousands of supporters outside the Miraflores presidential palace, this at the end of a march in defense of democracy. The president reminded the people that it was the U.S. that pushed for the overthrow of democratic governments all across Latin America during the 20th century.
For the revolutionary changes which are America for 2 centuries has demanded and called for throughout the 20th century under the domination of imperialism. We were witnesses of a policy, an interventionist policy.
The Venezuelan opposition have also taken to the streets in several cities. Addressing some of the protesters, the leader of the opposition-controlled National Assembly, Juan Guaidó, illegally declaring himself interim president of Venezuela. This was the biggest demonstration that Venezuela's opposition has managed to organize in the last year or more. The supposed swearing-in of Guaidó has quickly been recognized not only by the Trump administration, but by a number of U.S. allies. These include 11 of the 14 members of the Lima Group, which earlier this month agreed not to recognize President Maduro. However, Guyana and St. Lucia, as well as Mexico, did not sign the declaration in support of Guaidó. The opposition's move was roundly rejected by those at the Chavista march.
We are asking the courts to respond to the big mistake this gentleman is making by declaring himself interim president. No one voted for him. We had elections and the opposition decided not to participate. Why do they want to seize power now? I voted for Maduro. Who voted for Guaido? No one.
It's a big mistake, what he is doing. The people of Venezuela are marching today in defense of the revolution and democracy, and against interventionism. This is a very delicate situation. We're calling on people here to join the national demonstrations, and not to respond to these provocations that are being mounted by the right wing in the country, and supported by the United States. We, the working people, are against intervention. The people in Venezuela are on alert.
Tens of thousands of people marched to the presidential palace in defense of the Bolivarian Revolution. They reject what they see as an attempt coup by the opposition, and they oppose unprecedented interference by the United States. The Venezuelan armed forces also condemned the swearing-in of Guaidó as unconstitutional. This is all happening on the anniversary of the popular uprising that deposed the dictator Marcos Pérez Jiménez 61 years ago.
Today we are the Bolivarian youth, the Chavista youth, the Venezuelan youth, accompanying the Bolivarian process that is led by Comrade Nicolás Maduro. We as young people, as an expression of national sovereignty, with the expression of our freedom, of our democracy, we are today in the streets of Caracas defending the Bolivarian revolution.
And as night falls in Venezuela, sporadic incidents of violence are being reported. Tensions remain high between supporters of President Nicolás Maduro's government and opposition backers after a day of rallies. The Bolivian President Evo Morales sent his solidarity to Venezuelans and President Maduro. Via Twitter, Morales said his support, quote, comes at a time when imperialism is attacking democracy and people's self-determination. He also said Latin America's people will never allow the U.S. to use the region once again as their backyard. Support for Venezuela also came from the movement for social justice in Trinidad and Tobago. The movement strongly condemns the United States' interference in Venezuela's internal affairs.
We stand fully in solidarity with President Maduro as the legitimately, democratically elected president of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela. We condemn totally the intervention and interference in the internal affairs of Venezuela by the United States government, as evidenced by the statement by Vice President Pence. That must not be allowed to stand. We must stand in solidarity with the people of Venezuela to defend their constitution, to defend their sovereignty, to defend their right to self-determination.
Trinidad and Tobago's government stands ready to assist Venezuela in any way it can, as President Nicolás Maduro faces a challenge to his authority. Communications Minister Stuart Young issued the assurance as he toured the U.S. President over the statements he made on social media.
I too have seen, I don't know if it's a tweet or if it's an official position from the United States President. That's his prerogative. He can say whatever he wants. At the end of the day, Venezuela, as far as I'm aware, remains a sovereign country. We stand, as we said throughout, as the Prime Minister said, we stand ready to assist in whatever way we can, including in any mediatory position that we may be able to play. But we certainly don't think one government calling on another government to fall is the right way to go about it.
And Russia has said it maintains its support for Venezuela as well and Maduro's government. Our correspondent in Moscow, Halsey Oro, has more.
Russia has reaffirmed its support for Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. This comes after the United States and the country members of the Lima Group recognized the opposition leader Juan Guaido as interim president. Russian Senator Andrei Klimov said that his country will not change its political relations with Venezuela. An official statement published by the Foreign Relations Ministry says that the Venezuelan elections were carried out under watch of international observers. On his part, the Vice Minister of Foreign Relations, Sergei Ryabkov, reaffirmed Russia's solidarity with the Latin American country and strongly condemned the U.S. interventionist campaign against President Maduro. He also hopes to continue the intergovernmental trade and economic agreements between both nations.
President Maduro has criticized Ecuador for the measures taken against Venezuelan migrants there. He says Ecuador's President Lenin Moreno is promoting xenophobia.
Recently, there were very lamentable events in Ecuador.
Por culpa del gobierno ecuatoriano y del presidente Lenin Moreno.
And I blame the Ecuadorian government, and President Lenin Moreno began a witch hunt, a persecution, an aggression against the Venezuelans. And sometimes Ecuadorian Venezuelan Ecuadorians who live in Ecuador. Today we sent 3 planes to bring all those Venezuelans back to their homeland, back to Venezuela. We received them with open arms.
Hundreds of Venezuelan migrants who were living in Ecuador have arrived in Venezuela on board 2 flights as part of their return to the homeland plan. The flights were organized by the Venezuelan government after the recent xenophobic attacks on the Venezuelan community. Many left the city of Ibarra, where they were attacked last weekend after a Venezuelan citizen killed a woman. Another flight is scheduled to leave from the city of Guayaquil. We heard from some of them before they left Ecuador.
The day the tragedy occurred, the xenophobia started. I was attacked by a group of Ecuadorians when I was going back to work. They burned my clothes that were there. Me and some colleagues took refuge in a fruit store and they tried to enter, so we had to protect ourselves. And yesterday they returned. They had sticks, pipes, machetes, and we had to run away.
It's been a while since I'm trying to return, because we couldn't find a job here. So it's great that the president launched this program. It's very good for us.
More stories coming up. We'll be back.
An occasion to enjoy the cultural diversity that defines our South American essence. Come along to find out the story behind these personalities, traditions, and artistic expressions that unite us as a whole. Real Lives, Friday, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Marish Hashemi has been released from jail in the United States. The Press TV host had been in detention for 10 days. The Iranian-American journalist was arrested in the U.S. at St. Louis Airport. She was considered a material witness in an unnamed case and appeared at least twice before a judge in Washington, D.C. The United Nations has encouraged Colombia to keep working for peace despite the attack that took place in Bogotá last week. The Security Council met this Wednesday to revise the implementation of the peace agreement in Colombia, but the main discussion was focused on the possibility of moving forward in the peace talks with the National Liberation Army. The UN envoy in Colombia, Carlos Ruiz Massieu, said that the attack highlights the need to put an end to violence in the country. The son of Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro has been linked to the family of the person accused of murdering Councilwoman Marielle Franco. According to local media, Flavio Bolsonaro employed the mother and wife of Adriano Magalhães, who according to the prosecutor's office is a member of the organization behind the killing. Prosecutors have ordered to arrest of Magalhães, who is currently on the run. Franco was killed in March 2018.
The mother and the wife of the former police captain and militia leader, who is a fugitive of justice accused of involvement in the death of Marielle, were only laid off from Congressman Flavio Bolsonaro's cabinet on November 13, 7 days after the Furna da Onça investigation was unleashed.
A Mapuche leader in Chile serving 9 years in prison could soon have his sentence overturned. The Supreme Court has ruled in favor of Facundo Jones Walla, declaring his appeal as admissible. The ruling was the result of suspicions that the Chilean government, specifically the Ministry of Security, violated espionage laws. Jones Walla was convicted of arson and for possessing illegal weapons. Chile has criticized France after it rejected its extradition request of a former Chilean guerrilla member. Ricardo Palma Salamanca was a member of the Communist Party's armed wing during the Pinochet dictatorship and killed a senator closely allied with Pinochet.
Chile is a state where the law prevails. The resolution announced today denies both victims and relatives the possibility of obtaining justice.
Pope Francis has landed in Panama to celebrate the International Youth Day. The pontiff was welcomed by Panamanian President Juan Carlos Varela. Both are set to meet this Thursday. The Pope will also meet with diplomats and Central American bishops. He will leave on Sunday after attending the International Youth Day event. And the Catholic Church has launched an app allowing worshippers to pray with the Pope. The Click to Pray app will let users know what the pontiff is praying for so they can join him. The outgoing president of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Joseph Kabila, has called on Congolese people to support President-elect Felix Tshisekedi. He says Tshisekedi needs everyone's support in order to unite the country and fix the economy. Kabila has governed the country since 2001, following his father's assassination.
Respecting the Constitution, I will hand over power tomorrow without regrets or remorse, because despite the imperfections emanating from all man-made work, Congo has come a long way and rests on a solid foundation today.
The Zimbabwean finance minister is attending the World Economic Forum in Davos. Talking about the country, he said that the government is determined to fix the economy after 20 years of decay. Our correspondent Matuba Matale brings us the details.
Political tensions are simmering in Zimbabwe, with President Emmerson Mnangagwa unable to attend the World Economic Forum held in Davos. Now, at that same economic forum, President Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa is asking for the lifting of sanctions against Zimbabwe so that the country can get out of its current economic crisis. Now, Zimbabwe has asked South Africa for a cash injection of about $1.2 billion, but South Africa's treasury has since said it cannot help Zimbabwe at this point, even though it supports its quest for a permanent political solution. Now, a permanent political solution in Zimbabwe will be difficult to find amid protests that are going on now. Protests have been going on for more than 10 days in Zimbabwe, with reports coming out of that country that at least 12 people have been killed. Soldiers and police have been patrolling the capital city, Harare, trying to quell those protests. People are calling for a reprieve because they cannot find access to basic needs like fuel and food. Now, some 700 kilometers north of South Africa and Zimbabwe, the Beitbridge border, where Zimbabweans are trying to come in and out of the country to find those basic needs they cannot access in Zimbabwe. And you know, in Zimbabwe, the US dollar bill is the only money that works, and that is also hard to find in Zimbabwe for a lot of people. Now, the economic crisis going on in Zimbabwe is not the first challenge for President Emmerson Mnangagwa's government. Just few days, or few weeks rather, after being in office, the country was hit by a massive cholera outbreak, which the government had to deal with swiftly with the help of NGOs and neighboring countries. Now, the economic crisis now is stuck as a problem for President Emmerson Mnangagwa, with regional blocs like SADC, neighboring countries, Swaziland, Zambia, Mozambique, and South Africa itself calling for a permanent political solution in that country. But Emmerson Mnangagwa now is adamant that that solution will be found if all political parties gather around the table for a common solution for Zimbabwe. Now, back to you.
South Africa's president has promised that his government will not allow land grabbing. President Cyril Ramaphosa made the assurance at the World Economic Forum in Davos. It comes after South Africa's parliament approved a report endorsing a constitutional amendment allowing expropriations without compensation in December. Land is a controversial issue in South Africa because racial inequality remains entrenched decades after the end of apartheid.
Land reform is going to be handled in terms of our constitution, but as it is being handled, we are going to take care that those of our people who were denied the right to own land get equity. Everything should be done on an equitable basis. And that is the only way we can ensure that South Africa does indeed become a prosperous country where all the people of our country do benefit from what South Africa has to offer in the way of a better life for all.
Public consultations have begun in Trinidad and Tobago on the decriminalization of marijuana. This followed the Prime Minister's announcement that the use of marijuana for medical purposes will become legal. Several other Caribbean nations are debating the issue. In 2015, Jamaica decriminalized the use of 2 ounces or less. Last December, St. Vincent and the Grenadines made marijuana legal for medical purposes. Praia Grande near Sao Paulo has become a popular sea destination for Brazilian workers. During the summer season, its population explodes, and so does business for local beach vendors.
Alexandre Davido is a school caretaker who is on vacation with his family in a rented beach house.
I'm making some snacks to bring to the beach, frying some shrimp and some chicken. I'm going to fry up some sausage too.
After the 2016 parliamentary coup against Dilma Rousseff, the Brazilian government made it easier for employers to deny paid vacation to their workers. As a result, more people are vacationing closer to home this year, taking the bus instead of flying. For most of the year, Praia Grande has a population of 300,000, but in summer it swells to over 1 million. Its proximity to São Paulo and low prices have made it Brazil's 4th most popular vacation destination, and this year business is booming for the beach vendors.
This year things are a lot better. Last year the national crisis hurt us a lot.
It may not be the nation's most beautiful beach, but it's clean and its gentle waves make it relatively safe for children. Things might not be looking so bright for Brazil politically at the moment, but a sunny day on the beach with loved ones offers a chance for working-class Brazilians like Alexandre to forget about their problems and enjoy the best things that life has to offer.
I like Praia Grande because it's close to Sao Paulo. We can bring whatever we want to the beach, the prices are low, and we can have fun somewhere nearby and inexpensive.
Brian Mir, Telesur, Praia Grande.
We're taking one last break. Stay with us.
Our actions have an impact on the environment. It's our responsibility to change for the sake of our planet. Let's be part of this transition. Watch, preserve, and protect your green zone. Wednesdays, only on Telesur.
Welcome back. Hundreds of Palestinians have demonstrated against a newly opened road in the occupied West Bank. The newly opened road, which Palestinians have dubbed as the Apartheid Road, segregates the road into 2 separate way lanes with a high wall in the middle. The western side will be used by Palestinians, while the eastern side will be used by Israeli settlers to enter and leave Jerusalem.
Today's action was to reject the occupation policy, especially on this racist street. This street was opened a few days ago and it symbolizes discrimination. The street is only for the settlers and Palestinians are forbidden to step on it. This is the beginning of the implementation of the E1 plan, which aims to control large areas of Jerusalem's land to expand settlements.
The U.S. Senate will vote on Thursday on 2 competing bills as lawmakers attempt to end the longest partial government shutdown in the country's history. One includes $5.7 billion to fund the U.S.-Mexico border wall, demanded by President Donald Trump. The other extends funding for closed agencies until February 8. The shutdown has forced 800,000 government employees to work without pay or take leave. The European Union's Economic Affairs Commissioner said the risk of a no-deal Brexit is growing. The Commissioner said it is now up to the British to tell the EU how they plan to break the impasse. Britain is said to leave the EU in late March, but there is no agreement in place yet. Last week, Parliament rejected the proposal presented by Prime Minister Theresa May.
The ball clearly is in the British side again. It's not a problem that can be solved by Brussels, maybe in Brussels later, but it has to be first dealt with in London.
And the Prime Minister clashed with Labour Party leader Jeremy Corbyn in Parliament over the failure of Brexit talks. May said that lawmakers' attempts to delay Brexit doesn't address the voters' decision to leave the European Union. The lower house will vote next Tuesday on alternative Brexit plans as the March 29 deadline approaches.
The only consistency in her strategy seems to be running down the clock on this by threatening no deal as an alternative to her dead deal. The CBI, Mr. Speaker, says the projected impact of no deal on the UK economy would be devastating. Leaving with no deal would be a hammer blow to manufacturing industry in this country, costing jobs and damaging living standards.
The war of words between Italian government officials and French President Emmanuel Macron has continued to escalate. Italia's Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini launched an attack on Macron, accusing him of sabotaging efforts to end the conflict in Libya. He said that this is due to the fact that the conflict in Libya is benefiting French energy companies. Hundreds of asylum seekers, including women and children, have been kicked out of one of Italy's biggest reception centers. They were evicted without notice, and they will be transferred to other centers hundreds of miles away. This after the Interior Minister decided to shut down the facility. Other centers across Italy are set to close in the coming months as well.
The most abominable thing is that we, the 107 workers in this center, will lose our jobs overnight. I've been living in Rome for 10 years, and on the 31st of January, I have to pack my bags and go home because they took away something that worked very well.
I have been here for 2 years, and the situation is very, very difficult. We do not know anything about our fate. I do not know where they will send me or when I am leaving. That's the problem. It's not humane to send away people without notice. That is the problem.
And with this story, we come to the end of this news brief. You can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. For Telesur English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.